headlines. Ethiopian minister says Prime Minister Abiy's visit to Abu Dhabi cements the Ethio-United Arab Emirates relations. Good evening to you all. A very warm welcome to ETV News. I'm Grum Tariku. Government Communication Service of Ethiopia says Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's visit to the United Arab Emirates would boost bilateral relations. Minister of Government Communication Service Legesse Tulu said leaders of two countries also discussed ways to work together in selected areas. Goshu Melissa has more on this.
For decades, Ethiopia and the United Arab Emirates have successful bilateral relations, but the year 2018 witnessed heightened bilateral relations between the two countries. This new development and shift didn't come from a vacuum, but as a result of shifts that took place in the Middle East as well as the Horn of Africa. Even the current visit of Ethiopian Prime Minister and his delegation expected to further strengthening the already flourishing ties between Ethiopia and the United Arab Emirates. Appreciating United Arab Emirates' unforgettable support in hard times of Ethiopia, member of the delegation team and Minister of Government Communication Service Legesse Tulu told relations between the two countries have been growing in recent years.
In the past 3 or 4 years, Ethiopia has established multifaceted relations with United Arab Emirates. In recent years, the relations between the two countries have been growing in investment, technology and social sectors. United Arab Emirates' support during hard times of Ethiopia was unforgettable. In his official visit, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed expressed his gratitude to United Arab Emirates' support.
According to Legesse, the Crown Prince congratulated Premier Abiy for the restoration of peace in Ethiopia. The two leaders agreed to transform the bilateral ties to strategic level.
Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the Crown Prince of the Emirate of Abu Dhabi, expressed his happiness for the restoration of peace in Ethiopia. He also agreed to transform the bilateral ties to a strategic level, particularly in technology, agriculture, tourism, investment, and in other areas where they prefer to engage.
Ambassador Suleiman Dedefo, for his part, said the United Arab Emirates government is supporting investors to invest in Ethiopia. Therefore, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's visit is crucial for more cooperation.
የሀገሪቱ ባለሀብቶች ወደ ኢትዮጵያ እንደሄዱ በግልጽ ስፔሲፊክ አድርጎ ወደ ኢትዮጵያ ሄዱና አምርቱ ብሎ ያበረታታል።
The United Arab Emirates government is encouraging its investors to invest in Ethiopia. It's also financing investors to engage on various investment opportunities in Ethiopia. There is no other favor that can show the friendship of the two countries. Ethiopia should design investment-friendly environment and ready-trained human power in order to use this opportunity. In this regard, if we make a comprehensive preparation, we can ensure long-lasting friendship.
ህጎቻችንን አሰራሮቻችንን አያያዛችንን ለዚህ ደግሞ ዝግጁ የሆነ የሰለጠነ የሰው ኃይል አፍርተን ተዘጋጅተን መጋየት ይኖርብናል።
Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's visit clearly illustrates that the two sides are making use of the geopolitical shifts in their respective regions for the betterment of their political economies.
Excellencies, heads of state and government, first ladies, heads of state, excellency and men from an international organization. And government, excellencies,
Ethiopian university scholars say African leaders should work hard to ensure sustainable food security for their citizens. It is said that Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, or GERD, is one of the projects that help Ethiopia meet AU Agenda 2063. Shagayu Mata has the details from ENA.
The African Union will mark its 20th anniversary in 2022, and as pressure to perform better increases, the upcoming Heads of State Summit from 5 to 6 February will be crucial. The 35th summit will come with a theme, Building Resilience in Nutrition on the African Continent, accelerates the human capital, social and economic development. One of the concerns of the summit will be then food security and nutrition. University scholars disclosed Africans need to strive to ensure sustainable food security for citizens. Although Africa has adequate resources, many people are still exposed for shocking scarcity of food. That is why scholars urged that there is a need to prioritize nutrition science.
If we take Ethiopia as African example, there is a scarcity of food here. Although there are countries which can afford food for their citizens, there are also many African countries which cannot adequately do that. There is standard growth among children due to scarcity of food. Therefore, to address this problem, there needs to be an all-inclusive development in various sectors in the continent, including sustainable food production for citizens.
The scholar also noted that Africa, which is water-tower continent, it has to irrigate farmland so that African countries will not be dependent on foreign aids. The scholar further noted that the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is one of the projects that help Ethiopia meet AU Agenda 2063. It can also lessen foreign aid dependency.
If we take the irrigation sector, we can produce indigenous food consumption for citizens. Many can also be done through wind, sun and hydroelectric power. Projects like the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam are good examples that Africa can lessen its foreign aid dependency. Such projects will also help Africa meet its 2063 agenda in terms of self-reliance in food security area. The continent also envisages African democracy, good governance and indigenous developments. So, this will be realized from various projects that Africa is undertaking.
Another scholar from the university stresses nutrition issue has to be African leaders and researchers' agenda, like Pan-Africanism movement to scale up food production in the continent. Although Africa has abundant agricultural resources, the continent often faces food insecurity.
Ethiopia alone cannot achieve everything. However, if the agenda is taken into African Union, all African countries can easily solve the problem in unison, that they can realize food supply for Africans. Ministry of Education and Ministry of Finance have to discuss how to adjust nutrition science in curriculum with Ministry of Health.
A sign of its hospitality tradition, Addis Ababa is on high vibe in preparation to welcome Africans for the 35th AU Summit. A number of souvenir shops in the capital are filled with traditional attires and multiple souvenir items that represent African values. Tigist Sarnes has more on this from Ethiopian News Agency.
As the 35th Annual Assembly of the African Union nears, Ethiopia has finalized preparations for the success of the regional summit, which starts on the 2nd of February 2022. A number of souvenir shops in the capital, Addis Ababa, are occupied with cultural clothing, which represents the traditions of the continent.
We used to sell a number of traditional attire importing from Kenya, but after the pandemic the transaction was slower. But now we are happy, it will be boosted. We got everything ready to welcome our guests. We have costumed clothes that incorporate African culture. We get ready Ethiopian traditional clothing, shoes, jewelry and scarves. Everything is ready.
Locals that purchase multiple traditional items witness the shops are full of souvenirs and clothes that represent Ethiopia and the rest of African continent.
We are really happy with what we saw. We have seen many artifacts that represent Ethiopia. If you look at this one, it is an Amharic alphabet for the first time that we get to see this. In fact, we Africans have a lot in common, but when the guest is coming here, get to see very traditional souvenir representing Ethiopia, I believe that they will be interested to purchase.
The clothing and other souvenir items do indeed meet a given standards, and vendors say they provide the items at attractive price.
Addis Ababa has finalized preparations to host the 35th AU Summit, and a huge number of participants are expected to come to Ethiopia. On the sidelines of the summit, Addis Ababa is cordially inviting its esteemed guests to enjoy visiting spectrum of tourist attractions. Jerusalem Beza has more on this.
Against the backdrop of relentless efforts of tarnishing the image of Ethiopia, an apparent move to stop it from the hosting of the summit, the East African nation has finalized preparations and is anticipating the participants of the 35th AU Summit. Parallel to hosting the Grand Summit, Addis is ready to provide the visitors with diverse eye-catching parks and historical places that the participants of the summit can't afford to miss sightseeing. The Unity Park, one of them. Located within the National Palace of Ethiopia in Addis Ababa, it embodies generational legacy of Ethiopia. The park features a wide banquet hall made of wood and leather ropes, wooden and glass house once inhabited by prince and princess, and an imperial court and hall, to mention just a few. The park also includes a spacious green area, including a botanical garden, a zoo where primates and endemic black male lions will roam among 300 individual animals of 46 species, to be watched from an artistic tunnel with grass portions for viewing. The other spectacular place participants of the summit should visit is the Entoto Park on the highest peak on the Entoto Mountains, which overlooks the city of Addis Ababa. The park is fully equipped with various indoor and outdoor facilities, including sports centers, library, entertainment, restaurants and coffee shops, artificial lake and fountains, walkways, bike, scooter and cart routes. Most of these facilities were constructed using local materials, so they blend in beautifying with the natural environment of the park.
Dear viewers, this is Ethiopian Unique Coffee Ceremony. Visitors can have a taste of authentic Ethiopian coffee here in the park.
The park is significant in terms of facilitating service economies and changing the look and feel of the city of Addis Ababa.
Here at the Entoto Natural Park, the weather, especially at the night time, it's very cooler, so it's better to use or bring jacket. But the park in general, it's amazing and wonderful place, especially at the night time when I see the beauty of Addis Ababa by using this telescope. It's really amazing. So I invite you to visit this place and enjoy the beauty of nature.
Shaggar Park's Friendship Square, Africa Park, Ethiopia Park, Addis Ababa Park, Unity Park, ICT Park, to name a few, are also other spectacular and iconic areas that Addis Ababa will offer to its guests. Hotels in the capital are also ready to cordially welcome the guests in a manner strictly adhering to the maximum COVID-19 prevention protocol, most of the hotels with enormous experience in handling of AU Summit. The AU summit will be convened under the theme Building Resilience in Nutrition on the African Continent, accelerate the human capital, social and economic development. The decision made by the leaders of AU member countries to hold the 35th summit in Addis Ababa is considered as a diplomatic victory for Ethiopia.
You are watching ETV News. Military leaders remain in control of Sudan 3 months after they grabbed power, and there is a little sign of return to the democratic transition. The anti-coup movement is continuing despite the killing of dozens of protesters. The family of one of slain protesters hopes his death will not be in vain. Johannes Fantaun has more from Al Jazeera.
Gassim Mohammed's family is in a mourning. The 24 years old from Wad Madani in Sudan was killed during an anti-military protest a week ago.
I was in Khartoum. Someone called me and said your brother was hit by a tear gas canister. I called those who were with him, and they told me he had had a small injury, when in reality, he was hit by a bullet to the head. Then I got a call from someone who gave me his condolences. That's when I knew my brother had died.
Gassim was the one who supported this family. He dropped out of school to drive an auto rickshaw. Whenever I called him, he was either at a funeral or at weddings helping people.
Large protests have been witnessed since the military took over power in October, dissolving a two-year transitional government which was meant to lead Sudan to democracy. Security forces have repeatedly used tear gas and live ammunition against demonstrators. At least 78 protesters have been killed and more than 2,500 injured. Wad Madani may not be the only city beside the capital Khartoum where thousands have taken to the street to protest against military rule, but its location in central Sudan is significant. It shows that the demand for civilian rule and democracy transcends the social and ethnic barriers that used to dominate Sudan's political landscape. For decades, Sudan's central region was more stable than other areas which suffered from civil wars. But since December 2018, when Sudan's revolution began, many more people in cities closer to the capital joined the anti-government movement. The movement was reignited when the military took control.
The protest movement in Wad Madani is not less than what is happening in Khartoum. When 2 protesters from here were killed, including Gassim, people came from all over the state and from neighboring states. We want to see the future of those protesters who died envisioned. We want a democratic, united Sudan.
Gassim's family say it may be painful, but they take comfort knowing he died demanding change and to see a better country.
Time now for weather update. Let's have a look. reminder of headlines. Ethiopian minister says Prime Minister Abiy's visit to Abu Dhabi cements Ethio-United Arab Emirates relations. The anti-coup movement in Sudan continues despite killings of dozens of protesters. Well, you have been watching ETV News. Thanks for joining us and have a pleasant evening.